Welcome back to World Crisis Radio here for our second hour. So the European banking crisis, and it's a banking crisis, not a sovereign debt crisis. It was always a banking crisis. This has now taken center stage, and it's clear that whatever happens to Europe, the United States will be in the same boat. Notice also the biggest export market for Europe and vice versa is China. So Europe goes down, China goes down, U.S. goes down, everybody goes down. It's a depression. So why not face this fact and begin to develop a recovery program of the type that I have been demanding now for 3 years with the 5-point program posted at the top of my website since the website has existed. So the cynic, the blunt cynic Rogers, more realistic than the people in Germany saying, well, gosh, if the Greeks default, then they can't stay in the euro. It's ridiculous. Of course they can. Let them go through bankruptcy reorganization. In my terms, they should do it their own way under the cover of a unilateral binding debt moratorium. And let them wipe out their derivatives debt and let them seize control of their central bank with the help of the European Central Bank. Let the Greeks lead the way in forcing the European Central Bank to enter into the area of credit stimulus. Not fiscal stimulus, not monetary stimulus, but credit stimulus. We'll talk about that in the final segment because this is exactly what the U.S. Fed has to do. This is the Voitinsky-Lautenbach Lend-Lease method of getting out of a depression. Now, let's look back at Italy for 1 second. The Berlusconi austerity program, very ill-advised, very bad idea. Austerity doesn't work. Cuts increase the deficits. You're cutting into the level of economic activity. It's always going to make things worse. Think of something new. Try what I say. Try seizing the central bank and using that for credit creation, for infrastructure and job creation, right? Kreditschöpfung für Arbeitsbeschaffung. That's the key. The Italian general strike. Well, it's nice to have the CGIL out there with a general strike. The problem is, what are their demands? That, not us. Austerity, yes, but a balanced program, something like Obama, that's totally inadequate. And that's a loser. The Greek working class movement has been losing for a year and a half with the misleadership that has no demands that will address the causes of the depression. The demands of your general strike have got to be a recovery program. I have one. You're kindly invited to take the one I have. You can easily make the changes. So, the situation now is that European stocks are at a 2-year low in the middle of all of this. And that, of course, is creeping across the Atlantic. Now, let's look at the Obama situation, because we've had the job situation, the unemployment situation in the U.S. being center stage. The unemployment statistics in the U.S. have gone up this week, and Obama now finally delivered his job creation speech, his economic recovery program, which is miserable. It's pathetic. It's small bore. It's demagogic. It's actually demonic. He is a demonic demagogue because part of this is the idea that somehow the American people have to pay for their own jobs program, not the sinister bankers and parasites who created this crisis. First of all, Obama refuses to use the powers of the presidency. Back at the time, at the beginning of August, in the debt ceiling debate, Obama refused to use 14th Amendment Part 4 to tell the Republicans in advance, look, I have the power to continue to pay the public debt of the United States, and I am going to do it because I have to obey. I must obey the 14th Amendment. It's not something I can choose to invoke or ignore. It binds me as president. I must carry out this constitutional measure. That means you're invited to negotiate in good faith. But if you think you're going to extort genocidal budget cuts from the government of the United States against our own people, you've got another thing coming, oh, Tea Party demagogues, proto-fascists, Austrians, and assorted vermin. That would have been the proper approach. This weakness of Obama is now repeated. The president has the power to call the Congress back into session whenever he wants. That's what even little Harry Truman, otherwise a puppet, did in 1948. He went to the Democratic Convention, accepted the nomination, and in his acceptance speech called the Congress back into action because the Republicans had been talking big about all the wonderful things they wanted to do. He gave them a chance to do it. They didn't do any of it, and then he ran against them in the following months to win the presidency once again. Obama, of course, has no fight. He's a languid, ineffective Wall Street puppet, not even an energetic one. Now, let's look at Obama's points, right, in this demagogic performance here last night. The first thing I want to condemn is the worst part of this, is the attack on Social Security. Out of the $450 billion in the so-called jobs program, about $250 billion of it, give or take, is an attack on Social Security. He's basically saying, I'm cutting the Social Security payroll tax. I'm continuing the cut for wage earners. I'm cutting it's called FICA, F-I-C-A. The Social Security payroll tax is going to be cut, and this will inject $175 billion into the economy. There's also a cut on the part of the payroll tax that the employer pays, the bosses pay, and that's another 60 or 65 billion. So you put this together, and we're up at the area of about 245 billion or thereabouts, all coming out of the future solvency of the Social Security system. In other words, this is a stealth attack on Social Security. Rick Perry and his Republican reactionary friends do the frontal assault, the bayonet charge to destroy Social Security. Obama has the stab in the back, right, or the poisoning with successive doses. He's essentially saying, I'm willing to destroy the future solvency of Social Security, which is otherwise doing fine for decades and decades and decades. I'm going to destroy that in the name of my demagogic needs because I don't have the guts to fight the Republicans on any tax increases on the rich, above all, the Wall Street sales tax. So Obama qualifies as a one demonic demagogue indeed. And let's go through the rest of his program. That's already half of his program, more than half, right? That's about $245 billion out of the entire $447 billion. So it's basically saying, to get an economic recovery, let's destroy Social Security. As it's been pointed out, why bring Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid into a jobs speech? What is the connection? There is none. Even Keith Ellison, no bargain, from Minnesota, says, why talk about Medicare and Social Security in a jobs speech, especially when the congressional Democrats would like to use the Ryan plan to destroy Medicare as their main issue in the coming campaign? Well, that's because Obama pledged in January 2009, before he took office, he told the Washington Post editorial board, as we've stressed again and again, that his real mission, his real program was not hope and change, but the destruction of the New Deal entitlements, but gradually and in a way that's more effective. So now let's look at the rest of it. Infrastructure and local aid, $140 billion. $50 billion for transportation. We're told that the existing gas tax, the federal gas tax of 18.4 cents, and the current highway bill runs out at the end of next month, at the end of October. This will lead to hundreds of thousands of jobs being lost. We'll be back in a minute.